So the session is being recorded, so if you're comfortable with that, stay on. If not, feel free to drop. Let's see if I can, there we go. For our agenda today, we will do introductions real quick, a few announcements, then we'll do Copilot Day, because I know that's what everybody's here for, and then we'll have questions and answer. So if you can put your questions in the chat, that would be great, and then we will address the questions during the chat and then also at the end. So with that, my name is Mary Brummer. I am a Power Platform Specialist. You can contact me at my email address or link in with me. I am one of the founders of the Health and Life Sciences Power Platform User Group. We're super excited for everybody to be here today. This is our second meeting, so we are a brand new group. And with that, we do encourage you to sign up on the website. If you haven't done so yet, please do that. We have about 210 people. We would love to add 100 people a month if possible. So please feel free to share this information with colleagues, other professionals in health and life sciences that are interested in Power Platform. It is a user group, so we really want your input, feedback, conversation. This is your group, so let us know what you need. We want to make sure we're incorporating all the things that you feel are necessary to kind of empower your journey with Power Platform. One of the things that we do, like today, we are having our national meeting. We have a national meeting every month. It is always on the fourth Thursday of every month from noon to 1 Central Time. And so what we'd really love to do is have a customer present their a topic to the rest of the community. So if you would like to present a topic, please nominate yourself in the chat or your organization in the chat. Or if you want to hear from another organization that you feel is doing great things or you've heard about them, please feel free to nominate them in the chat as well. And we are always wondering what topics you would like covered in the user group. So if you could put in the chat topics that you would have interest in, that you would like presented, you'd like to learn more about, please put those in the chat. And if somebody puts in a topic that you really like, please give it a thumbs up or heart it. So then we know that that topic has a lot of interest. Then we're super excited because we have the Power Platform User Group. That's an in-person event in Las Vegas. So it's September 18th through the 20th, and there will be workshops the 16th, 17th, and 21st. If you've ever been to this conference, you'll know that it's super fun. It's fun, it's interesting. You get to meet with a lot of the product engineers, so a lot of the product people and people who are actually shaping the product are there. So highly encourage you to go. It's great if you can send many people from one organization. I do have the registration link there. And at the Power Platform Conference, we will be having an in-person user group. So we would love for you to attend the conference and then come to that in-person user group as well. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Melissa. She is a senior technical specialist for Power Platform. And our topic today is Copilot Day. I know this is a very interesting topic for many. And then chat assistance today will be handled by Randall and Naomi. And then the last thing I just want to call out is if you have an interest in Copilot Studio and would like more training, information, product announcements, feel free to go to Dwayne Robinson's YouTube channel. Dwayne is the product lead engineer for Copilot Studio. He's posting videos all the time. They're super great. And then also follow him on LinkedIn for additional content. And so with that, Melissa, I will hand it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And great to meet everybody. I just wanted to come off camera quickly and introduce myself. My name is Melissa Nelli, and I'm a senior technical specialist here at Microsoft. I focus on the Power Platform, and I'm really excited to take everybody through, Microsoft Copilots and Copilot Studio. So how can we take a look at the accelerant Copilots that are out there, but also how can we use Copilot Studio to build, create, and customize our own Copilots as well. Perfect. So for the agenda for today, what I want to walk everyone through is really, first of all, before we, start to talk about Copilot Studio and Copilots in general, I want to take a big step back and talk about what is Copilot, right? So you're probably hearing that in the news. You might have heard that, or you might be utilizing tools or seeing tools pop up. We're in Teams right now. So for instance, in Teams, you might see that Copilot is there to assist you summarizing conversations or giving you follow-up action items or tasks. Copilot is now embedded within all of our solutions, but want to talk a little bit about what it does before we jump into Copilot orchestration. Available Copilots, I'll talk a little bit about the accelerator Copilots that we have, M365 Sales and Service, and then we'll jump into how to create and extend Copilots. We'll jump into a demonstration. The chat is open, so feel free to utilize the chat and ask any questions that you have. Randall and Naomi are there to help support in answering those questions that you might have. So again, taking a big step back, what is Copilot? Not sure here, raise of hands of anybody who saw the Super Bowl, watched the Super Bowl, maybe post in the chat if you saw our commercial. There was a Super Bowl ad around how Copilot and AI can help you really unlock your true potential. So if you saw that commercial, you can see how across really any line of business or any action that someone really needs to take, Copilot is there as your trusted AI assistant, whether it's coming up with ideas for a video game or generating code. Copilot really helps to converge generative AI and conversational AI to be your everyday support. So what we're hearing a lot in the field is, how does it work and how can I extend or customize it? So again, what Copilot is it really is that everyday companion that's available for you. In the past, you might have heard of Power Virtual Agents. As that solution has evolved and as traditional conversational tools have evolved, again, what we're doing here is really combining that generative AI and that conversational AI into one application. You can utilize sort of the out-of-the-box solutions that we have, or you can build your own Copilot application. And today we'll focus really on that Copilot Studio capability of building your own Copilot. Some just principles for this session that we'll walk through is there are Copilots that are available for you from a first-party perspective and third-party perspective. What that really means is you'll have Copilots that are available in your Microsoft solutions that you can utilize every day, grounded in the context of your business. But then you can also build and deploy or customize some of those Copilots for third-party use across different solutions and different CRMs. And again, that customization and extension is going to be done in Copilot Studio. So that's going to allow you to expand on the value of the existing Copilots that we've built for you as accelerators, but then also to build your own Copilots as well in that Copilot Studio interface. When we think about, first-party Copilots, again, across Microsoft, you're going to start to see Copilots embedded in all of our products. So whether that's in sales or software or knowledge workers, Copilots are there to kind of help you surface up insights. So if you're in sales and you want to generate maybe a response to an email, or maybe you're a knowledge worker, you work in the customer service space and you want to maybe get answers grounded in your knowledge base to help really provide answers to your customers. That's something that you can utilize Copilot for. For software developers, if you use GitHub, you might have actually used Copilot to help you generate some code. And then across, data and IT pros and security and operations, you can start to use Copilot to query your data or maybe ask some questions on that data. So whether you're a maker of Copilots or you're an end user, Copilot's going to be there for you to help you kind of accelerate your day-to-day tasks, whether that's, generating code or responding to an email for a customer. Copilot is going to be there to help you no matter what. Where Copilot sits in our stack, if you're familiar with Copilot and Copilot Studio, you have Copilot Studio here sitting at the top, and then underneath there you have your Copilots and then your Microsoft Copilot. We'll do a showcase of what Microsoft Copilot is for M365, so you can kind of see the differences of the Copilots that we have available. M365 Copilots are going to be grounded in your data, and we'll see an example of that. So across your business data within the context of your business, M365 Copilots can help surface up data Maybe if you want to ask it a question like, what meetings do I have on calendar this week? That's something that M365 Copilots can support. Or maybe you're using PowerPoint and you want to generate ideas for PowerPoint and use natural language to tell PowerPoint what you would like for it to generate. That's where Copilot really comes into play to really help increase those everyday efficiencies as you as an end user start to build. Then you can see on the right-hand side, we have your Copilot. So that is your custom Copilots that you go on and build, or maybe you want to extend your existing M365 Copilots. Copilot Studio underneath has this AI orchestration tool that's going to allow you to access your data, additional data that you might want to connect through various data sources. Maybe you want to connect to additional AI models. All of that sits on top of Azure. So you have the security, safety, and scale across Azure as well. Let's take a look at Copilot Studio in action. So I keep mentioning that Copilot is really for everyone. Copilot can be used internally or externally. And I just want to showcase a couple of customer use cases who are using Copilot. So you can kind of get an idea or a sense of how Copilot can potentially be utilized for your business. When we take a look at the National Bank of Canada and the city of Kelowna, the National Bank of Canada is actually using Copilot Studio to onboard new customers. They were able to get a Copilot up in less than 2 weeks, and that Copilot is reasoning over their website, their existing content to help customers get started on making their first transaction. They've kind of found that this simplified experience is really helping to onboard customers faster and reduce churn for the National Bank of Canada. I'll also point out that their Copilot is bilingual, so it responds in French and English as well. So really kind of helping to increase the loyalty across their customers and reduce that churn by having that bot to help them answer those questions. We also have the city of Kelowna here. So the city of Kelowna actually used Copilot to streamline the ability to get city permits. So when you think of a city permit, a user usually has to go in and apply for a specific building permit. They're actually starting out with permits for pools first, and that's their first use case. By March 2024, they're hoping to have some additional use cases. But what Copilot enables them to do is allow a user to kind of type in the kind of permit that they're looking for and use automation on the back end to generate those building permit forms so that they're able to get those forms expedited. Now, we talked a little bit about how Copilot can be utilized for these use cases for external purposes, for customer-facing purposes. We'll talk about PayPal and RSM who are using them from an internal perspective. When we look at PayPal, they were able to actually reduce the workload and costs of their support team. So their support team is able to use Copilot Studio to reason over all of their knowledge base sources. So whether someone internally is asking them a question or maybe a customer is asking them a question, those knowledge base workers are able to kind of reduce the time it takes to search for that information and provide a response to the internal and external customers. And then at RSM, again, kind of similar capability here. They were able to help expedite the answering of the questions for clients and team members. So again, they were able to surface up actions and insights and automate actions and tasks to onboard new team members. So once they were onboarded, they were also able to help answer customer questions quickly and easily by reasoning over their knowledge base. Another great customer example that we have here, and there's a case study here as well. Randall and Naomi, if you guys want to post the customer stories in the chat, that would be great. I could do this at the end as well. But PG&E, I don't know if any folks are out based in California on the West Coast. PG&E was actually able to utilize Copilot Studio to save their help desk $1.1 million annually. They also saw a decrease in demand for the help desk by 25 to 40% because that demand was now being routed through Copilot Studio, which gave their agents more time back to handle additional issues. I love this. They actually called their Copilot Peggy. So they gave the Copilot a name. And Peggy was able to support that SAP access request. So from end to end, when users got locked out of SAP, PG&E help desk staff was actually getting over 4,200 calls a year from users who needed to really unlock their access to SAP. Peggy was able to help kind of that end-to-end SAP unlock account request process, which saved the team just 840 hours alone in just handling that SAP process. They use Peggy for additional processes as well. Users actually also needed assistance in logging into Citrix for the first time. The chatbot was actually able to recognize trigger phrases and ask targeted questions regarding the user's login device to help them to be able to log in. And based on their answers to the trigger questions and phrases, they were able to provide basic instructions and links to documentation without ever having to contact the help desk. So again, they were able to take two processes that really burden and bog down the help desk team and automate those processes using Copilot to have that dialogue with the internal team to either get them access to SAP or help them to log into Citrix. Any questions in the chat, Randall, at all? Or if not, we'll move on.
No, we're good so far.
Perfect. Again, just ping me if there's any questions in the chat. Other ways in which customers are using AI to innovate, again, those were just a couple of examples. I know we're speaking from a health and life sciences perspective. You do have the ability to do things like summarization and pull that into conversational AI. So if we needed to do things like summarize patient history notes or hand off a conversation with a patient from a bot to a human with that summary, that's something that we're able to do using AI. When you kind of pull it all together from a conversational perspective, you can really handle that customer service bot experience or enterprise Q&A or end-to-end, or create that end-to-end contact center solution. We can do things like writing assistance, generating ideas, or get support writing content, or even do some knowledge mining for social media analysis, trend analysis, and surface up cross-functional insights as well. So again, across kind of all industries here, AI is able to kind of help innovate, and you can pull through these AI models, as I was talking a little bit about earlier, through Copilot Studio. We'll showcase that. But lastly here, I just want to talk about the faster software development piece. Again, using AI for things like code generation or code documentation, or with the embedded Copilot that we have today within our solution. Copilot's not only going to help increase loyalty with your customers by creating that or decreasing that friction between engagements with customers, it's also going to help the team that's utilizing the solutions to build those copilots. So you'll see today when I jump into Copilot Studio, without using any code, I can actually use natural language to help me build a copilot, to help me generate topics for my specific copilot. I can kind of describe it to design it and tell the tool, this is the kind of copilot that I want to build. This is the kind of questions that I want to help my customers answer. Can you help me build a copilot? Just want to quickly jump into M365 Copilot. I talked about how this is an accelerator that we have available for you. Some folks might be using this today. M365 is available to be grounded within your data. You can see I'm asking M365 chat, what are some milestones of my project here? And M365 chat is actually pulling up my milestones of my specific project from a PowerPoint. So using the Microsoft Graph, it's actually pulling through all of the resources that I have access to. So you can see this document is unrestricted. I have access to this PowerPoint document, and it's giving me all of the data about this project that I have. So M365 Copilot is just an example of an accelerator Copilot that we have available. You can see here that it's actually pulling in all of the data from my PowerPoint. If I had a meeting on my calendar, it could pull through that data as well. And this is a Copilot that you can actually extend with Copilot Studio. So I just want to showcase some of the Copilot accelerators that we have available that are pre-built, that are not just embedded within your solutions, but they're available for you to extend as well. Another example of a Copilot that is pre-built, but you're able to extend is Microsoft Copilot for Sales. So if you are a sales agent, you can use kind of this AI assistant to really help you to catch up on things like your pipeline, update your CRM data, prepare for meetings or analyze calls. You can do things like view your opportunity summary, analyze sales conversations, draft proposals, create pitch presentations in PowerPoint. and update CRM tasks from a meeting. So I talked a little bit earlier about Copilot being embedded within tools like Teams. So you can see here from a Teams conversation, we're able to create that CRM task. Now, this accelerator for sales is available not only in Microsoft Dynamics, but we're also able to connect to other CRMs like Salesforce as well. So if you needed to save from a CRM like Salesforce, save that lead back down to your CRM, Copilot Studio enables you to kind of add those contacts from Outlook and save that data back down to a CRM, whether it's Dynamics or it's Salesforce Sales Cloud. So again, you can use this from a first-party perspective or deploy across your third-party solutions as well. And then lastly, before we jump into Copilot Studio, another accelerator that we have is Copilot for Service. Really similar to Copilot for Sales, Copilot for Service is there for your call center agents. So for your contact center agents and your contact center CRM, we have services configured out of the box for things like ServiceNow, Zendesk, and Salesforce, where your call center agents can be grounded in the right data at the right time. So they can get access to all of their knowledge base articles and answer any questions from customers or even internal business users as well as quickly and efficiently as possible. Similar to sales, again, we do have the ability to connect to public websites, SharePoint, knowledge base articles, and offline files, but you can also connect to your content across Salesforce, ServiceNow, and Zendesk. So we can really partner with those other major vendors to get you that access to those knowledge base articles. What these solutions do is really accelerate time to production. It's more of a point and click setup. But again, we can then extend these solutions in Copilot Studio, but just wanted to show you some use cases where we have some accelerators for these copilots to enable you to kind of dialogue and have that conversation. So let's move into Copilot Studio. So now that we took a look at the copilots that are available to you, we talked about embedded copilots in your everyday tools and solutions across Microsoft. There's a copilot that's going to be there to help you as you design and make new solutions. And then we also have copilot accelerators for things like M365 sales and service. If we needed to extend on those copilots or customize and build brand new copilots, which we're going to do today in our demo, this is where we're going to start to utilize Copilot Studio. So again, you'll customize, build, and manage brand new copilots or extend existing accelerators. Microsoft's Power Platform is where Copilot Studio sits. So if you're familiar with Power Virtual Agents, and when we jump into the demonstration, I'll kind of talk about what's a little bit newer in the UI if you're used to Power Virtual Agents versus Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio sits in the Microsoft Power Platform. So you do have access to your solutions like the Dataverse for storage of that data that's passed along within those copilots. You have access to over 1,000 connectors if you want to pull in any data through a Power Automate flow. We can reach into those connectors and pull that data in through the Copilot and create that really engaging conversational AI. You have access to AI Builder and then your other Power Platform solutions like Power Apps, Power Pages, and Power BI. Again, what we're going to see today within Copilot Studio is the ability to create, publish a custom Copilot for your organization. So it's going to have an intuitive building experience. You can actually describe it to design it. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But you also have the ability to enhance your Copilot with large language models and generative AI. So you can see in the center of the screen here, it's going to ask me if I want to boost my conversation with generative AI, and it'll ask me what kind of topics or information that I want to feed the generative AI to provide answers. So I can do things like enter my website. If I have a website with FAQ information, I can actually upload that to boost my conversation. And the generative AI will read over those FAQ documents when someone asks a question and respond based on those FAQ documents. I also can customize my Microsoft Copilot, so I can extend and customize my first-party Microsoft Copilots and build my own enterprise scenarios. It is one connected platform. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, you have access to integrate to things like Azure AI Studio, Azure Cognitive Services, Azure Bot Framework, and then the Power Platform AI models and Power Automate to reach into all of those connectors. Excuse me. And then you'll also have the ability to manage all of those Copilot experiences. And what we're going to see today when we jump into the demo is how we create generative conversations, how we can use natural language to build, and then how we can use AI to dynamically complete tasks. So how can we turn on AI to allow us to, jump between different tasks within a conversation based on AI? Any questions in the chat before I jump into a demo?
There's been a couple, but I think I've answered them in terms of
Perfect.
EA for Copilot Studio and bringing their own data or models to Copilot Studio.
Awesome. Thanks for doing that. Amazing. So I'm here now in Copilot Studio. I'm taking a look at my overview. I can see all of my Copilots that I have available to me. I am just going to take a look on the left-hand side. I just want to go through maybe some of the changes based on Power Virtual Agents and Copilot Studio. So what's new here? What are you going to see that's potentially different? I'm going to open up my bot here. I'm just calling it Support Bot. And on the left-hand side, you're going to see just a few changes. So we have our topics and plugins. That's really how we want to kind of structure or have our conversation. Topics are how a user might come into the conversational AI and ask a question. Maybe they want to do things like book an appointment. That is a topic that I can have. I can route that topic to maybe a Power Automate flow to go and book an appointment based on a user input. We'll talk a little bit about topics, and I'll show you how to use Copilot to actually generate a topic for you. And then I also have other things like plugins. Plugins enables you to connect basically to an API. So if you have an API with data that you want to pull in, you can use a plugin. For the purposes of today, I'll showcase how we can do something like get the weather using an MSN plugin. I'm connecting to that API and I'm going to ask it for the weather based in New York City. That's where I'm based out of. And then you have your system topics, which are your basic topics for things like starting and ending a conversation or boosting your conversation as well using generative AI. And we'll talk a little bit about that. You'll see here also on the left-hand side, something net new is really being able to extend that Microsoft Copilot. So if you have access to that Copilot, you will be able to extend that here. And then lastly, within settings, this is where you're going to be able to come and publish your Copilot to various channels, whether that's Microsoft Teams, a website, a custom website, a mobile app. You have access to do that here. But I think one of my favorite tools here that we have available for you that makes it easy to really create and generate these Copilots is the ability to include generative AI. So I talked a little bit earlier within the presentation that we're really able to combine generative and conversational AI here pretty quickly and easily to develop this Copilot. What generative AI is asking me here is what data sources should I use to pull data in and create a response for your users. I've pulled in some public websites, so WebMD, Health Grades, and then I pulled in my SharePoint. So I've actually pulled in some data on my SharePoint. You can pull in SharePoint and OneDrive data. And in my SharePoint, I actually have a summary of benefits that I just pulled off the internet. I just downloaded a summary of my healthcare benefits. So this bot can actually help support and answer those questions. And then additionally, you have the ability to upload a document. So again, without any code, I was able to kind of create this bot, and I'll show you how it works here. All I did was incorporate some websites, some data from my SharePoint, and then I've pulled in a document off of the internet just around nutritional facts. This section here to pull in more files and documents, we can share a link to the types of files that are supported. Right now, image, audio, and video are not supported, but you could incorporate things like PDFs, Excel, Word documents, text documents, anything that's a text-based file really, but we could post that as well. So in creating this bot, again, all I did was kind of point and click. I added in some websites. I added in a PDF. I set the moderation. So this is going to allow me to determine how I want the bot to respond. Do I want to set the moderation to high? So Copilot's only going to generate fewer answers, but responses might be a little bit less relevant. Or do I want it to be medium and give it the ability to maybe generate more answers, but potentially less relevant? You have the ability to set that content moderation. But based on everything that I've incorporated here, and as I mentioned, I put in my summary of benefits, let's ask the tool, if I want to get maybe an answer on my benefits, I'll ask it, what is my maximum for my HMO plan? And what you'll see is the bot will actually start to respond and search through the summary of benefits, and it'll reply based on that summary of benefits and also give me that citation. So it'll let me know where it is also pulling the information from. It'll provide that reference in that citation so that I can open that up if I did have access to it. So you're seeing it's just basically saying the maximum out-of-pocket responsibility for your HMO plan is $6,500. And it's pulling in from that summary plan.doc, which is in my SharePoint. I can also do things like ask it, why does my arm hurt? Because I am connected to Healthgrades and WebMD. Let's take a look at that. And it'll go ahead and do kind of the same thing here. It'll search WebMD and let me know arm pain is caused by various factors and various issues and conditions. And then it's actually linking me to the page on WebMD where it got that information. So you can see very easily right off the bat, if I wanted to come in and create a bot, but I didn't want to use any code, and even I'm not even using natural language here to describe it, to design it, which I'll showcase how you can do. I can very easily, by just feeding it data, create the base foundation for my Copilot. And again, all I've given it is a couple of websites and a PDF. So if you have a website, or maybe a knowledge-based source with a bunch of answers to commonly asked questions, you can go ahead and you can create either that kind of Copilot that helps answers claim questions, or maybe submit a claim, or if you want it to help answer any additional other questions based on your FAQ documents, it's as simple as copying and pasting in your website. Now, let's say I wanted to create topics on my own. Maybe I wanted to incorporate a different line of thinking or a different flow that wasn't necessarily within generative AI. I'm going to go back to topics here. And I'm going to actually turn on my tracking here so you can see as I go through a question here. But if I open up book an appointment, this is a topic where I'm incorporating what we call trigger phrases. So this is what someone might come into the tool and ask, like schedule an appointment, book an appointment, make an appointment. If you give it a couple of trigger phrases on the back end, it's training the AI to know what to look for, which someone might actually type in. So you just give it a few trigger phrases here. I want to go ahead and set up that appointment. And through that topic flow, it'll do things like ask my age, ask my name, what my date of birth is, capture all of this data, and help me go ahead and book that appointment. And if I need to, it can also escalate me to a live agent if my questions aren't answered. So this is an example of a topic for someone to come into the tool and sort of ask a question. But if I wanted to create a topic using natural language, I didn't want to build that entire flow out on my own. I could come here to create topic and create topic from description with Copilot. So again, this is where, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Copilot is enabled in the solutions to help you to not only build the solution, it's enabled for your end users as well to come in and ask questions, but as the maker, I don't have to do all of the work of trying to kind of think of what someone might come into the tool and ask. I'll call this insurance claim. And I'll say, let a user check the status of their insurance claim and route to a live agent if needed. So if I can't answer their question, maybe I want to route to a live agent. Instead of going in and coding and programming all of that, I could just simply hit create here. And now it's going to create for me a topic around insurance claims. So you can see it's built that out. It's generating those trigger phrases. So what someone might come in and ask, maybe file an insurance claim, how to make an insurance claim, report, claim submission. And you can see on the right-hand side, I can continue to edit this flow with Copilot. So it's doing things like asking me, what's your insurance claim number? Once I get that number back, it's going to allow me to check the status. And what it wants me to do here is fill out where it should be pulling that insurance claim number from. So what I have to do here is just connect to that back end and make sure that it's pulling in that insurance claim information. But on the right-hand side, what I have the ability to do is to continue to add to this flow. So I can do things like, add a question about the username, summarize the information gathered in adaptive card, ask the user maybe their preferred method of contact. So if a user does decide to contact an agent, and we can either escalate or route to that live agent, or I can say, ask me a question. What is my preferred method of contact, email or phone? If I add that in now to the flow, I could go to the bottom of this flow here and it'll go ahead and ask, if you need further assistance, what is the preferred method of contact? So again, Copilot's going to be there for me to go through and be able to continuously edit this entire flow that I'm creating. So again, describing it to design it, I was able to create that flow, create those trigger phrases, and continue to add. So it's telling me it's added a question, it's added a condition and an activity to check that insurance claim on the back end, and then send that activity to the insurance solution. So if I wanted to actually connect to an API, that's where I can use things like plugins. So I'm going to go back to one of the topics here that I have where I've actually created a plugin. I'm connecting to something like MSN Weather here. And this plugin is going to pull in my information that I provided. I'm letting it know that I'm in New York, and it's going to provide that output of the weather. So let's take a look really quickly at how we can kind of utilize that plugin to get the weather. And again, I'm just going to call that API. I'm going to say, what is the weather in New York City? And it'll ask me just, how I want the weather formatted. And then it'll go ahead and pull through that API based on the weather and let me know that the high is 44 today with rain, scattered showers. And it'll give me that full information based on pulling in that plugin. So you can kind of see how with topics and plugins, you're able to use natural language to create that topic. And then with plugins, you can pull in that third-party information via that API if you needed to either connect to a data source, submit data back to a data source, or pull in data in this way. Any questions in the chat that we need to address, Randall or Naomi?
I'm working through a few. We have some concerns over web interface for HIPAA reasons. And then also, I think I've answered, I think they're getting some hallucinations on some of their testing when they're asking questions against the context and training sources. And if this version fixed that, and I think that's just based on our models being improved, and then also some prompt engineering that could be impacting the accuracy of that. But if there's anything there you want to comment on, Melissa, feel free.
Perfect.
And then if there's one other thing, Melissa, if you got a chance, if you can show kind of where authentication is built into Copilot, so we can kind of show what that looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So in the settings on the left-hand side, great call out, Randall, you'll see that you have the ability to start to do things like share, add web channel security. So if you are publishing out to another website, you can ensure that it's secure. You can add in tokens so that the user has to kind of request and get that token from a security perspective, or you can add in authentication as well. So you can make users authenticate using your authentication provider. You can use Azure Active Directory or any OAuth 2 identity provider as well. So that's where you can set this up in the tool here under security and web channel security as well if you're going to publish to your own website or third-party website. Were there any other questions related to security that I might have missed?
No, I think it's just important that we point out we can build in security authentication into the bot, and then that's used for those backend sources. So, yeah, when you're providing the generative AI responses, it's actually using that authentication to make sure you have access to that information before it provides a response that you don't have the rights to see. So that's one thing to keep in mind here too. And I'm typing up an answer here, Abby, in the chat, but I'll say it over voice, as far as, governance and control over PII, PHI that's displayed in the interface. You do have some ability there to obviously limit the number of users that can design copilots through creator license that you assign to them. So not anyone can access this. You have to give them the appropriate license to access this. And then in terms of the data sources you're connecting to, that can be further governed through DLP policies in the environment. So every copilot is created within an environment. That environment has governance and control policies around the connectors that can be used within that environment to those backend sources. And then lastly, in terms of the authentication that we're talking here, again, controlling what they have access to in those originating data sources will also further limit that. And then lastly, you can always pass that text through an Azure service to restrict or remove that PHI, PII in that returned message. So just some things to think through there.
Awesome. Thank you, Randall. That's great. Any other questions? The only last couple of things that I want to move on to is just surrounding kind of the analytics that you can get back from the tool as well. So we'll take a look at analytics. You'll have access to your summary, your customer satisfaction sessions and billing, and your conversation rates. So things like total sessions, engagement rates, resolution rates. You'll have access to all of that within the tool. Just taking a second to load here. And then you'll also see kind of your escalation rates as well and your abandon rates. So if people are escalating to an agent or if they're abandoning the chat, you'll have access to those rates as well, with the ultimate goal of improving those over time. And then you could take a look at the individual bot sessions and billing as well. So just FYI for those folks who are curious around any analytics, is just taking a second to load here. The only other thing that I just wanted to really take a look at here is, I think the last thing that I spoke about, or the first thing that I spoke about, is around publishing. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat around publishing to various sources. Again, you'll have the ability to publish across these different channels, whether it's a custom website or a channel that's sort of out of the box here. When you do publish that, again, we talked about web channel security, incorporating that, or incorporating the authentication as needed. And I think Randall spoke a little bit about how we can secure that specific data. I would also say, if you're concerned about the kind of data security, you do have the ability to kind of choose what you decide to let generative AI utilize, right? So you want to make sure that the content that you're putting in here from a generative AI perspective, users have access to those documents. I enabled this bot to, and I actually signed in before the demo, this bot actually has access to this specific SharePoint. I authenticated before I joined the meeting, and then I had access to this specific SharePoint as well. So again, if you want to lock some of these generative AI sources down, you want to just make sure you're giving it access to a set of data that these specific users should only have access to. If there's no other questions, I want to finish up with a couple of other customer success stories, and then sort of next steps or actions where you guys can actually kind of play around and build your own Copilot. We'll put kind of a demo link in the chat as well. Any other questions, Randall?
There's one
Yes,
question,
we have
Melissa.
lots of. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead and back up where you were. I think that's might answer Michael's question. It says, if we're using Copilot to integrate with Power Platform, do we need to connect to Dataverse versus our own data sources? So that screen that you're on right now kind of explains some examples, but also, can you talk to what use case types do not need Dataverse?
So if you're using this kind of upload to a document, those files do get saved into the Dataverse. If you're scraping kind of the public SharePoint sources, that's going to pull from those specific sources that you're sharing from, so like the website. But if you are going to upload a document, those do get saved in the Dataverse. So just an FYI, it does tell you here as well. The only other case and where you might not use the Dataverse. I'm just trying to think of potentially with plugins, if you have a third-party plugin where that data source is not the Dataverse. So like MSN Weather is not, it's pulling from that API. You might have a third-party API that you're not actually storing that data in the Dataverse. So from a public website perspective, that's not going to be in the Dataverse, but uploading a document will be, and then connecting through Power Automate or through plugins through an API. If that data that you're calling is through a third-party API that's not in the Dataverse, that's how you can also get those data sources in. Randall, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I made the comments in there is there's two distinctions, or a distinction to be made there. One is obviously Dataverse is required for running Copilot Studio. So it relies on it for the topics and the transcripts and so forth, but it is not required as a data source. So, to Melissa's point, you have our 1,200 plus connectors that you can pull from for plugin actions and pull that data, as well as you can create flow actions to connect to and push and pull that data from, as well as bring your own custom connectors into that. And then lastly, bringing your own data through Azure AI Studio is also an option there as well.
Was there any other questions, Naomi? I think you wanted me to stop on the screen.
No, that's good.
Awesome. Randall, any other ones?
So are you able to show where they can adjust their prompts on the generative response? So if they want them to respond in a specific tone or voice, I believe it's on the conversational boosting topic. If we just go there, maybe that's the easiest way to show it.
Yeah. Let me just go there. Are you talking about this piece, Randall?
Yeah, and I thought in here I thought there was an area here to put in adjust the prompt, so we can specify, hey, we want to answer in a 4th grade level or something along those lines. And I could be wrong. I'll look that up.
No worries. Yeah, let's look that up and post that back in the chat. But this is the conversational boost topic. I don't remember if we actually showed the actual topic, but again, this is where you can see sort of that flow as it starts to think. There's a question that comes in, maybe with unknown intent. There's no topic for it. That's where that conversational boosting is going to come in and try to look at the data sources that you've given it. And you can see all the data sources that I've given it here, and the content moderation as well.
And actually right there, the custom instructions.
Yep.
That's where you're going to provide that additional prompt for tone and voice. So you can either use some variables in terms of that as well as formulas, but kind of give some additional instructions to the prompt to respond the way you want.
Perfect. Any other questions? Awesome. So just want to end, there's even more customer stories. So I just want to end on additional customer stories. If you want to take a look at the customer stories that I think Randall posted in the chat, but no matter what kind of scenario we have, whether it's Holland Cruise Line, being able to kind of book a room through generative AI, getting those questions answered online, or the example of PG&E, where we're able to kind of save money and kind of help innovate across PG&E so that they can get, unlocked into their accounts, kind of decrease that help desk time to providing those answers. There's a lot of different use cases for creating your own Copilot Studio, but then also extending the existing accelerators like M365 Copilot. What Copilot Studio that we saw combines is really that end-to-end SaaS solution. That's just your single pane of glass. So whether you want to create your own Copilot and integrate with Azure AI Studio or Azure Cognitive Services, you can continue to kind of monitor and improve your on your bot through those analytics. We talked about some of the analytics you can capture. You can create specific topics right on your own, or you can have Copilot actually generate those topics for you by describing it to design it. And then you can use kind of those actions and plugins that we talked about. So you have those pre-built 1,000 connectors out of the box through Power Platform. So if you wanted to have it kind of complete an action and pull into one of those connectors, you can create your own connector. Or you can use our pre-built plugins, which are, just APIs as well, and call those APIs to get that data and get that response to your customers quickly. Call to action, I just think really quickly, if I could put this in the chat, Randall and Naomi, you can actually try it out. So you can try out Copilot Studio. You can add in a link to one of your websites and start to generate answers. Otherwise, you could take a look at some of our more technical documentation for M365 and for Copilot as well. So you can see kind of our privacy, take a look at how we talk about AI and AI safety and the measures that we have in place there. And you can learn a little bit more around Copilot Studio. Any other questions for me or the team?
Thanks, Melissa. I've got a couple of questions for the community. So I would love to hear what topics you have interest in. What would you like for presentations on one of these monthly calls? If you can put that in the chat, that would be very appreciated. And then we can work to find speakers on those different topic areas. Another one would be for those who have gone to the Power Platform Conference. If you want to put in the chat that you've gone and maybe what your experience was, that would be great. I see David Dean. Hate to call you out, David, but if you want to tell us in the chat about your experience, how many people you brought to the conference, how it was beneficial, maybe explain to others in the chat how to bring the right people, how to make the most of your investment to go to the conference. That would be really great. It's just a really great way for people to get immersed with other Power Platform professionals. And of course, if anyone would like to present a topic, we would love to hear from you as well. So, Melissa, Randall, Naomi, anything else you'd like to add?
None for me. Thank you guys. Thanks for all the questions, and thanks Naomi and Randall for helping to answer those. If you have any additional ones, we'll take a look at the chat.
Sounds great. Thank you, Melissa. Great job.
And I will start a discussion also on our user group site for topics and presenters. So feel free to also comment there if you want to be a presenter or nominate someone or nominate a topic. Look for that discussion on the user group site.
Sounds great. Thanks, everybody, and see you next month.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.